Okay, so the last place we worked on was DC1. We added a conditional forwarder. So I'm going to go to DC1. We're going to double check that. I'm not sure why it's taking so long to open. I'm going to see if I can look at it on DC2. All my machines are running slow.
Were they powered off?
No, they weren't powered off. They were.
Just suspended?
No, I have everything moved to the mechanical hard disk.
That's what I figured, but that's why I asked if they were powered off. So if you're powering them on,
Yeah, no.
that would take forever.
Okay, so I'm in DC1, DNS Manager. We have a forwarder for a datum, and we're sending that to 0.6. And that, if I can right click and go to the properties, I can see that this is being propagated to all DCs in the forest. Guys, as we do this lab, I'm going to slowly reboot some of my machines. And it's going to all DNS servers in the forest. So we need to be able to resolve names for the other forest. If we don't, we won't be able to make this trust relationship. Guys, in reality, most likely, the other forest won't be in the same physical network that you're in, so you might have to open up ports to your firewall. I put it in the same network so we could avoid that. So in reality, before you can even start this lab, you need to make sure the DNS is opened up between the two. You need to make sure that you can reach other DCs, the LDAP server and all those ports are open up. Probably the easiest method would be to set up a VPN between the two corporations. So DC1 is up, is ready. Now I'm going to DC9. Now we need to do the conditional forwarders for Contoso. Typically, actually we didn't do the reverse, so let's create the reverse while we're here. So I'm going to create a new reverse zone. I'm going to go back to the classful address of 172.16. All the defaults. All I'm putting is 172.16. Open up PowerShell.
It's primary.
Primary, yes. It forced this machine to connect to DNS and create any missing records. In this case, it was just the pointer record. Registered DNS.
Go back register.
Yeah.
The reverse.
Yeah.
Right click, new zone, primary, and the only thing we're going to add is 172.16 right there. XXX.
What was the number, KD?
172.16. That's the classful network that will work with either site. Can I hit exit? So all that really did was create a pointer record for the DC. So now we're going to create a conditional forwarder. Typically, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to send it to the upstreams. So if someone sends me a request for www.google.com, I'll send it to my ISP. But I want to do that for everyone other than the name for contoso.com. So I'm going to create a new conditional forwarder for Contoso. And then I'm going to add 2 of the DNS servers. And store in an Active Directory and send it to all DCs in this forest. Don't worry about the red X. It's working. I was able to verify. For this particular forest, we only have 1 DC, but still, we'll still do that. I'm going to click OK, and we can test it with a command prompt. We could do, let me fix my resolution. NS lookup, CS01 DC1.contoso.com. We get an answer back. If we just do Contoso alone, we get an answer back. It's actually it's giving me the information to contact people on the west side, but that's fine. That's fine.
That's fine.
Yep. Yeah, it just couldn't resolve. Guys, this error is what? This is not really an error. It tried to do a reverse lookup of : 1, which is the IPv6 loopback address. And I don't have a reverse for that zone, for that network, my loopback. So it wasn't able to resolve my loopback. No big deal. But it did give me the answer to the question I asked. But it couldn't resolve the name of the server that answered it, which is itself, strangely enough. The way to fix that is you can create a new zone for that IPv6 loopback. Guys, there are some stuff that's hidden here. You can't see it. Click Advanced. I have an IPv4 loopback, but I don't have anyone for IPv6. So I'm going to hide the advanced features. Okay, so we're ready to go ahead with the trust relationship. Guys, I said this in the previous class. We have 2 corporations for some reason, they need to communicate with each other and share resources. It could be because one company bought out the other. It could be working on a project. So we're just creating a trust relationship between two forests. It would be the same type of trust relationship that we have with a parent domain and a child domain. And that is a two-way transitive trust. In this case, domain A trusts domain B. Domain B trusts domain A. So A will, domain A trusts B. B trusts C. Because B trusts A, C also trusts A. So now we're going to have a whole new forest where we're going to have that same two-way transitive trust, the trust that travels. So we can do it in two ways. We can have both domain admins go to one location and walk through one wizard. Or they could be at two different locations and they run through half the wizard. So we're going to do it running it through one wizard. So let's go to Tools, Domains and Trust. This utility is kind of weird. It doesn't act like any other utility you've seen before. Nothing shows up here, ever. When you look at it, this is all you see. So if you want to do anything, you got to right click and go to Properties. You know, even if you drop down and expand this, nothing's there. Go to Properties, and we're going to go to Trust. So we're going to make a new trust. We're going to do both the outgoing and the incoming, meaning domains trusted by this domain. I'm going to trust Contoso. Domains that trust this domain. Contoso is going to trust Adatum. So I want to do a new trust. So we're going to supply the other domain. I don't need to supply this domain because I'm in it. So that other domain admin travel to my facility so he can type his user account name and password in this wizard.
If you trusted the child, would it automatically trust the parent, or would you have to
Yes.
open a parent for it to go? No.
It would be a two-way transitive trust, but we're going to do a forest trust. We're going to do it from root to root. I could have it set up a child domain to another root with no travel. Maybe I don't want to allow them to the entire forest. Maybe I just want to allow them to domain B. I could do that as well. So I'm going to supply the DNS name of the domain that I want to communicate with. It's going to be a forest trust. What you were talking about, Victor, is an external trust. So we're going to do a forest trust, two-way. It could be only one way. Maybe Contoso trusts Adatum, so Adatum user can sign on here, but not vice versa. So we're going to do a two-way trust. We're going to do both this domain and the other domain, because I have both admins in one location. If I did this domain only, the other admin would have to go through the same wizard and do his domain. This way we can do them both at the same time. So I'm going to supply the administrator account for Contoso. So that admin is just going to lean over and type his password. I honestly don't know if you need to be an enterprise admin or just domain admin. Forest-wide, all resources in this forest. This is the outgoing portion, the local forest. The outgoing of the other forest. This is outgoing of, guys, I click back. This is the outgoing of me, of Adatum, and this will be the incoming for Contoso. This would be the outgoing for Contoso and the incoming for Adatum. Both sides of the trust. Next. I'm going to confirm it. I'm going to confirm the incoming at the same time. Guys, it would have popped up if it didn't work. But guys, I'm going to show you how to validate it, like after fact. Maybe something happened, you want to make sure it's still running. So I'm going to highlight Contoso and go to properties. I can validate it right here. It's good. It's saying if someone added a child domain, you might need to add it. You know, if they added a new tree domain. Because by default, I trust *.contoso. If someone created a new domain called msn.com, I'll have to manually add it. So I'm gonna try this one now. Validate that as well. Guys, I was playing around with this last night, and the local administrators group was popping up when I try to sign in, when I try to do it, add users from one domain to the other. But I don't have local user accounts anymore. If I go to computer management, so for some reason it's still enumerating the local administrator's account even though you can't do anything with it. So something is kind of flaky with this. See, I don't have local users anymore. When you make a domain controller, it doesn't have a local users group. I don't have local admins group. There shouldn't be any local group. But for some reason, I wasn't able to establish, have one user from one domain sign into the other because I have no member servers. Everything I have in this domain so far is just domain controllers. A normal user's account and accounts from Adatum would be considered normal user accounts in Contoso. Can't sign into a DC. So we're going to relax the security a little bit so to allow the administrator from Adatum to sign in a DC on Contoso and vice versa. So we're going to do that through our group policies. By default, our group policies prevent normal user accounts from signing into DCs. So I'm going to go to Tools, Group Policy Management. I'm sure if we went through and played around creating domain local and global groups, we could get it to work. Or I can assume it's going to work and just assign it to you as a task on the final. No one thought that was funny?
I'm down. All I have to do is allow them login?
Well, no. I want you to do it properly through group nesting. Make this admin be a domain admin on the other forest. So I'm going to drill down until I get to group policy objects, then the default domain controller policy. Click at it. And we're going to drill down into computer configuration, policy, Windows settings, security settings, local policies, user right assignments. And then who's allowed to log in locally? Administrators, backup operators, all these people. No one from Contoso is allowed to log in locally. That's what we're going to change. So I'm going to double click here. Then I'm going to add users or group. User or group. I'm going to go browse. Right now, by default, I'm querying a datum for user accounts. I'm going to change locations and query Contoso. That's the trust relationship. And just type administrator. Actually, let's see if this will work. Contoso administrator. Then click OK. Allow log on locally.
So does that mean there's also another option to allow log on remotely?
That's through the remote desktop. Do you need me to come back there?
You got click browse. Click location. Click location. Click location.
Just gotta watch and then it'll be on the video. Because by the time you get it promoted, we'll have moved on to the next slide.
That's it?
Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on the other side, on Contoso.
And what do you want?
George, you put in Contoso / administrator?
Over here, right?
Yep. Press cancel. Administrator, just spell out. Click OK. Click OK. Now, we need to do a GP update just so we get the new policy. Now we're going to do the same thing on Contoso to allow the domain admin from a datum to sign into the Contoso DC. Guys, this is the only way to really test it unless I create a member server. So this is probably kind of funky and probably not right. But it's late, so I don't care. Yeah, guys, I can also tell you right now, I am doped up on a lot of cold medicine right now. So I'm going to tools, group policy management. I'm going to drill down to group policy objects. And I'm going to go to default domain controllers policy. Edit it. computer configuration, policies, Windows settings, security, user rights assignment. Find login locally, add a user, switch to a datum.
Can you just type in a datum /administrator?
No, because you can type it, but it'll be searching the wrong database. So that's our search location. I'm gonna click OK. OK. Okay, so the next thing I need to do is the GP update. Because I'm not going to change my screen resolution, or my font. GP, update, force. Guys, now we should be able to sign out and sign in as the Adatum user account. Domain admin, rather. On DC1. So just kind of an overview of the trust. You got to get DNS working. So both machines can resolve, both forests can resolve the other forest. At that point, establish your trust, and whatever your organization needs to do, you might need to work with global groups, domain local groups, to get the groups nested properly, to give them access to the resources. Which I'm not going to do part of this lab, but I'm going to sign out. Now you can also test this on the data. You can go into DC9, sign out, sign in with Contoso admin. Yes?
Would that mean that they have equal rights in each forest as the other?
I didn't make the administrator account from Adatum a domain admin. All I did was just give him permission to sign into a DC. So I didn't make them they're not an admin. They're just like a normal user account that has the ability to sign into the DC. I'm going to do other user. Guys, that's in chapter 6. This is chapter 6 stuff.
It'll let me log in DC9. DC1 is doing some background stuff.
Yeah, since the user's never logged in before, it's basically waiting for the profile service to actually create them a local profile.
I cannot log in.
Does it give an error?
Did you do Contoso.com or Adatum.com?
Yeah, I use that add-on.
And you want the DC1? What error did you give?
You did not give me a error, just like you just not.
Did you not do a GP update? GP update force.
That's interesting. It didn't pop up Server Manager automatically.
It did not. You might have to give it time. Okay, guys, while this is going on, we're going to start creating the machines for the next lab. And we're going to talk about what's going to be on the final.
Oh, yay. That's already here.
Okay, while this is still going on, guys, I'm going to start shutting down some of my DCs. Just the ones that I know are redundant. I'm going to create a new hard disk. This is going to be for the certificate lab. It's going to be a differencing disk. See, that's how you do it. 2 mice, 2 computers. When she does it simultaneously, then that's when you achieve perfection. Okay, I'm going to call it CA. And we're going to browse to our VHD disk, parent disk, and choose the S2016 eval. Then finish. Do another disk, same way, called www.
Making a new hard drive.
Browse to your parent disk. Guys, I'm going to attach the CA to west, www to east. I'm going to check DC1. So I'm signed in. It just took forever. So I'm signed in as a datum administrator. You're right, it didn't open the manager.
Yeah, the 6. I did it on both of my computers. It didn't do it. Probably because there's no permission.
When you sign out, you don't have the ability to shut down either. Just all you can do is sign out. Okay, so guys, I'm going to create two new machines. One called CA. Generation 2, dynamic memory, attach it to west, and use an existing hard disk. Start it up. Guys, the other thing I'm going to do is, I don't need DC9 now. So I'm just going to sign in and shut it down.
CA connect to us.
Yep. Yeah, I'm shutting the DC9 down.
Why not just shut it down to the FRV?
Where is www going to be connected?
East. You could have, but guys, keep in mind that there's really not the same user accounts on my real machine as my virtual machines. My virtual machines are enforced and in different force and domain, where my real machine isn't joined to the domain. So if I just turned it off, I could crash it. Shutting it down might not work because I haven't signed in. But, you know, I'm not that real concerned with it. So I booted my CA. Now I'm going to create a new virtual machine. www, Gen 2, dynamic memory, east site. Guys, it's an IP network, doesn't matter where I connect it to. Guys, member servers like these won't be in sites and services because sites and services only shows you DCs.
Which DCs are we turning off?
I'm going to connect to 8 and shut 8 off. And 6, because those are redundant.
Professor, does this matter where you put, which subnet you put the CA in? Or which site?
Nope. I'm also going to shut down 6.
6 and 8, you said, right?
Right.
Yeah. Where are we putting?
Guys, I have the right to change this. So if I think of something I'm missing, DC1 will be on the parent. DC3 will be on the child. DC2 will be on the parent. DC4 will be a new forest to do the trust relationship. That would be the web server. The CA. The ADFS, which we haven't done yet. This will be a web app, like Office 365. That's what I'm planning on your test. That's doable in 6 hours. You shouldn't have any problem with that in 6 hours. Write your script. I'm assuming that everyone who's not taking a picture is still in shock.
You said you might change it though, right?
I might change it, but that's what I'm leaning toward. I'm not going to play around with the subnets. You can use the same subnets that we've been doing. You know, west and east, same WAN. We can even leave these as dynamic. Because I don't care if you connect to the internet, honestly. But you should be able to start writing your script for this structure.
So in other words, if we want Monday off, everything should be solidly scripted.
I'm sorry?
If we want that Monday off,
Yes.
everything should be solidly scripted.
And I've had people who've scripted the entire thing. Guys, I haven't shown you any of the PowerShell commands for sites and services. Victor, did you ever get any of that to work?
Yeah.
Yeah, the PowerShell commands are in the book for sites and services. You should be able to rename the default first site, create 2 others, create your subnet, 1 other, create your subnets. Guys, I'm going to sign into the CA. Sign the IP address, change the host name. Guys, this is going to be a CA. The name can't change. So you make sure you set your host name properly before you install anything. What was it, 248.0?
Are you gonna provide us subnets that we need to use, or?
We're gonna use the same subnets as before, but yeah, I will. I'm gonna, of course, write it up on paper too. I'm gonna click OK. Do I need to go back? CS01, CA. Oh, guys, listen. In my other class, I had a student that always made his domain capital C in Contoso, and everything worked for his trust. It validated no problem, but we couldn't sign in anywhere. Nothing would work. And the only thing I could see wrong was his domain had uppercase characters in it. Domain names, computer names, user account names, always lowercase. I'm going to click OK. Are you cold? You're getting sick, I think.
Yeah.
I was sick all weekend.
I think yes.
Vitamin C. Careful. It's good.
My wife has never gotten sick since we've been married. Not one cold. She got sick. She's sick tonight. This is the first time she's ever gotten a cold since I've known her.
That's a
Oh,
bold
so you're getting us all sick, is what you're saying.
If I'm getting you guys sick, it's someone gave it to me.
Well, I
From
mean,
here.
if your wife is sick and she's never been sick,
Well, no, she got sick 3 days after me. I was sick all weekend. Oh, did you show up for the Linux class?
I did, and I came to find out.
Oh, I sent out an email, but apparently it's going to people's junk. I don't know why. Or maybe just that's what Jose thinks of my emails. Not Jose. Julio.
That's good. Let's go for
Guys, I should have joined it to the domain at the same time. Sorry. I'm just going to join it to the domain. Guys, when we sign in as a domain admin.
Could you change that welcome message?
Yeah, I know there's a way to change it. But I haven't played with that in, I don't know, 10 years. It's been a while since. Yes, but I remember in 2000 or 2003 you could change it.
What would you put in there if you wanted to change it?
I don't know. I mean, it depends on what your goal is. Guys, go to other users. Contoso. Administrator. We're going to install this certificate authority stuff, and then we are going to take a break.
Oh yeah, Professor, I've hit this like weird, I don't know if it's a bug, I don't know if it's a feature, I don't know if something I'm doing wrong, but it's like, you know when you create the security credentials, set it to a variable, and then use that to sign in to the invoke command? It will work for half of the machines, stops working for the other half.
It's probably a
But
timing
it's the
issue.
same, huh?
It's probably a timing issue. You know, it is working. It's probably the machine that you're trying to sign into isn't booted yet or something. Or is it fully booted?
No, the thing is, it is fully booted.
Uh,
It will like always not work, and then what I did was I switched it around to where I just did the get credentials
yeah.
instead, and that seems to work somehow.
My thing is I would probably bet on is the timing issue.
Okay.
So what we're going to do is install Active Directory Certificate Services. Now guys, when we get to this role services down here, do not choose network device enrollment. That's for routers and switches. We're not doing this one. You're doing Active Directory Certificate Services. You're going to jump down to role services and choose all these. Click next, next, install. We're not changing anything on the web server. Because, guys, we're going to have it automatically enroll into our users and computers automatically enroll in certificates. So it's going to set up a web application. So that's why it needs the web server. Click next, next, next. Restart if necessary, and take a break. Guys, if you come back, don't close this window, because there's a thing that we want to launch right from this window.
Did you say if we come back?
When we come back.
Leave where?
Fast.
what they
That's
said.
probably the best call, besides the Titans. It's probably the best call.
Titans are too expensive.
Because the Titans don't outperform the Titans.
What?
Just like the collapse.
Yes. That's how, it's enough.
What are the 20?
I didn't feel like going to
I thought it was cool. So many people actually thought it was like, I like it.
I told my friends, they're like, hell no, there'll be a whole bunch of deletes.
I didn't see only a few.
That's true.
Which people are trusting now. That's not my crowd.
And then there was two pictures and it's like really appearing.
It's big controversial.
Yeah. Oh, well, you don't have to, but if you don't want ads.
I use one color.
I mean, there's like others.
Yeah, it's Kiss Center.
Yeah,
They took Cassandra down.
They did?
Yeah, Cassandra.
I haven't seen Cassandra in a while.
Cassandra was so popular, everybody knew about it, so they tagged it. Because Cassandra was so popular. Like, it might still be up, but it's really empty. What do you do? It's like a question.
That's the best way to have AC. If you put AC, that's a fee.
Oh, really?
He already ads, so look at this.
I know. But that's not Cassandra at all.
Yikes.
That's not
You scroll down, you see.
I use the site like that.
Yeah.
I use the site like that. I have a site ad blocker.
I know, but it tells you to turn off that.
Oh, I had ad blocker on. I turned off ad blocker on the site one time, and I saw all the ads popping up. Oh, crap.
Oh, good. Do you know the time?
I have heard. I don't know. It's one of these other things.
Professor, he's cold. I'm cold.
She is the one that's cold.
That's more than double.
How much is it?
Oh, I don't know about a reason.
I'll say it wasn't that all the thing.
No, I haven't seen it.
The anchor's not 21,000. Why is that one?
Getting
Not that.
Why is that
long line over there. Marcella, did you show up?
And I did check my email, but it's telling me you didn't email it. Or maybe you did, but I didn't receive it.
Check in your junk mail. Apparently, Julio got it in the junk mail. Yeah, go in there and unjunk it, so you, in the future, if I do send it, you know exactly.
Probably. Okay, sure.
Okay, that's how you need all of there. I'm like, I can see those like that.
I was on Facebook without thinking. I saw someone, they posted something that sounded like me, something about being antisocial. Without thinking, I was like, share. Now that I've thought about it, I was like, no, it sounds too sad. I'm trying to delete it, but still the internet over here sucks.
What's too sad?
The post was, how antisocial are you? And then it said, I can stay in my room for 3 days without getting bored as long as I have food and good internet. It's true, but it's sad. Now I'm trying to delete it, but I can't connect. It's still the internet. Think before you post, boys and girls.
No, the only thing I ever share on Facebook is something that's funny. Just then you can't, you know.
The problem with that is the things that I find funny.
I'm sorry?
The problem with that is the things that I find funny.
Oh, okay. Well, no, like I went to the shooting range with my wife and my daughter. Oh my God, the slack I got from it. I posted, we're at the shooting range, okay? You kill babies. No, I don't. Not often.
If you're talking about texture packs, yeah,
Not texture pack. Well, texture is involved, but I mean like, let's say somebody wants to create like a custom RPG server, for example, like their own custom West Coast and things like that. You could log in and
You do that Bucket too, though.
you do that.
Yeah, like there's so many custom plugins for Bucket, and even programming plugins isn't really that hard. There's a lot of YouTube like that. Walk you through how to make it easy plugins. Oh, that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, all Java.
Guys, please verify that you're signed in as a domain admin. We don't want to move on until you are definitely a domain admin. Say, who am I?
I'm Leonard.
Who are you?
So once you've confirmed that you are a domain admin, click this to launch the next portion of the wizard. Now, we cannot configure this service right here first time around because we don't have a certificate server up and running. So if you try to choose that item, you're just going to get an error. So check everything else. I'm going to show you the error just to show you can't choose it. And the wizard will automatically go through a second time to configure that last item.
That makes no sense. Okay.
Because we want people to be able to connect to a website in the background, grab all the certificates that they need. A certificate can be used for authentication. Has anyone ever signed a PDF?
Yep. Yes.
With a certificate? All that stuff can be automatically generated. We don't want to have to go through as admins and manually approve every single certificate. So based on their Windows authentication, if they're entitled to a certain type of certificate, they'll automatically get it. 9 times out of 10, the certificate's used in the background. So this lab, you won't see any of the certificates being used, except for the web server. I want to manually do the web server. So you can see one certificate in action. So I'm going to click next.
Just thinking during this night.
We're going to do a CA, enterprise CA, not a standalone, meaning part of the domain controller. You're part of an Active Directory domain. It's going to be a root CA. Now, a root CA should only issue certificates to subordinates. And then your subordinates should be issuing certificates to users and computers and web servers and things like that. The only, then you should take your CA, after you get your subordinate offline, up and running, you should take your CA, your root CA offline, unplug it, put it in a secure location, like Iron Mountain or something like that. That's the only way to keep your root CA secure, is to take it offline. In 5 years, when your root CA is about to expire, you bring it back online, renew the certificate, reissue certificate for your CA, and then take your root CA offline. If it gets compromised, every certificate that you've issued is compromised. So it's an important server.
What's Iron Mountain?
Hold on one second, I'll explain. Click OK. Where am I? Oh no, that one's
Seems
normal.
like somewhere.
Everyone got that.
Imagine
Go to the
this
bottom.
Fort
Yeah.
Knox looking base with a bunch of servers in it. Yeah. This private company.
Giant just blades everywhere. Rows and rows and rows.
Like multiple biometric
Oh,
security.
all your
Probably like
DCs
a
are off.
stool sample test. Just to get in there.
You might have to get all your DCs running. I don't know why. Get all your DCs running, and then reboot your CA. Listen, Iron Mountain is the exact location they won't say, but it's somewhere in Pennsylvania. It's an old coal mine that they've literally dug deep under a mountain.
Oh, nice.
CIA has a headquarters there. The president has an office under there. It's a very secure location. So you can deliver stuff to Iron Mountain, and they will store it in that mountain. Yeah.
So how do you deliver stuff to the mountain when you don't know the location?
You don't. You call Iron Mountain. They come and pick the stuff up.
Ah, okay. And that's a private company?
Yes. So I'm going to do.
So it's all offline though. It's not like
Oh, man.
a blade somewhere.
No, they actually. They even have a data center underground. 60 minutes north of Pittsburgh.
200-acre facility.
220 feet beneath Earth's surface. Offers the most secure location in the country.
More secure than Fort Knox?
Yeah, I mean it's
Not that secure.
6 stories underground. What's 220 feet? How many stories would that be underground?
A lot.
Yeah,
If it was 12 foot in a story?
I would think. So it's deep under the earth, and it's apparently very roomy. 200 acres. That's like 5 square miles, maybe.
It's like an underground city then.
Yeah. So I'm going back to my CA.
Oh,
So again,
was it 220?
220 acres, 220 feet below ground. How many?
That's 20 stories.
20 stories under the earth.
That's pretty nutty, man.
Yeah. So I mean, it's designed to handle a nuclear attack.
That's great.
So our root CA is what we're going to use, but in reality, you should set up your root CA, issue certificates for the subordinate, then take your root offline. We're just going to use the root for this lab. We can create our own private key. Guys, can I erase this?
Yes.
Yeah.
PKI. What does that stand for? Private key infrastructure. It works by having two keys. Everyone has two keys, a public key and a private key. So I can have party A want to send a packet to party B. And we have a key server, and I have my parties A public key. Party B's public key. Who has access to these public keys? Everyone. So I'm going to send a packet to this. So first I'm going to encrypt it with B's public key. No. I'm going to encrypt it with A's private key. Then again with B's public key. And send it to B. What happens if someone grabs it en route?
They have to have the private key and go encrypt.
Yeah, they can't do anything with it because you can't decrypt it because you don't have B's private key. B's private key.
Oh, right.
Okay,
Right.
so so B will decrypt it with it's going to first decrypt it with its private key. That offers security. Then I'm going to decrypt it again with A's public key. That offers non-repudiation, which means I know it came from A. I know no one else sent that packet. So you use a combination of your private key and the other person's public key to encrypt it. So what we're doing is we're setting up those key servers. So right now it's asking, how do you want to do a private key? Do you want to create one or do you want to use one that you've already had? We're going to create a new one. Guys, if you want your key, if you want your infrastructure to be trusted on the internet, you're going to go ask VeriSign for a key. So your infrastructure will be trusted on the internet. Right now, this is only going to be trusted by our organization. So if you had another private key from like VeriSign or GoDaddy, you could use that here. And this stands for Riva. It's the three people that invented this algorithm. The key length is going to be 2048. Guys, the last time I heard that it took 9 years to decrypt this. So the data needs to have a shelf life of less than 9 years. So whatever encryption technology you have, it could probably be decrypted given enough time. You just need to make sure that the data you're protecting has a shelf life of less than it took to decrypt it. You know, if it took them 9 years to decrypt it, and when they got it, it was invaluable information, who cares?
So could you make it harder for them to guess?
You could, but then it's more CPU power, more, you know, it's, the more security you put in a packet, the less data you can put in a packet.
Would that be by choosing different algorithm or a key length?
A different algorithm or a different key length. Most algorithms are publicly published. You want to submit the algorithm to the public, let people hack it, and so you know the people who invent it, they might think, oh, this is correct, but then someone else discover a vulnerability. So all these algorithms have been publicly exposed. People know about it, and that's how they're going to find out weaknesses. IBM came out with one. They said it would took 90 years to decrypt it, and 2 kids in Helsinki with pencil and paper decrypted it in a few days. So you know, so IBM with all their geniuses, these kids found a way around it. So guys, this will be the information on our certificates that we sign. You cannot change the server name after the fact.
What algorithm are we using? SHA-256 or 1?
The algorithm is RSA. and we're using SHA 256. I didn't change anything on that page. So we're going to have our root CA have a validity period of 5 years. This will be the location of our transaction logs and our database. We make changes to the transaction logs, the system will update it in the database. We're going to use Windows authentication to verify their what CA they want to have. I mean, what certificates they can get a hold of. Right now, we can't choose a certificate for our certificate server because it's not up and running yet. When we go through the wizard the second time, it automatically fixes this. Click Next, and then Configure. When we click Close, it's going to pop up and saying, wait, you have more to configure, and walk us through the wizard one more time. So I'm going to click Close. Then, do you want to configure additional role services? Yes. I'm going to choose that last role service. I'm not going to change anything. How do you want to start this web service? Typically, you want to create a managed service account, and from that point, you want to use that account to start the service. You don't want to use your admin account to start it. Right now, I'm just going to use the built-in account for IIS. It's going to be a web service. I'm going to choose the certificate because I now have a certificate that was generated. And then configure. Every certificate has a different structure. So a certificate for a user account is going to have a different structure than a certificate for a computer account. We as network admins aren't going to design the structure of a certificate. It's going to be too much. So what they have are some templates that we can use to publish and offer those type of certificates. So we're going to go down here to certificate templates. And then manage. You never want to change the original template. You always want to make a copy of it, then change the copy. If you make a change to the original, you might not remember what you did, so you might not be able to undo it. So guys, you would publish templates that your organization will use. So if you're going to use IP security, you'd want to create a certificate for that. If you want to create a certificate for encrypted file system recovery agent, you want to do that. So I'm just going to do a few of these just to give you an example. So let's create a computer. Let's publish a computer certificate. So I'm going to right click and duplicate the certificate. And under subject name, under the general tab, in uppercase, I'm going to put Contoso. Guys, when it lists the templates, it lists them in alphabetical order. I just do this so everything's always nice and grouped together. Publish it in Active Directory.
I only have one general tab. I don't have the other tab in mind.
Well, I only have one general tab too. No, you press right click, No, close that. Right click there. Manage. Then right click computer. Duplicate. Then change the name. Guys, the template name won't have spaces in it. That's normal. Guys, remember when we were talking about the schema, the purpose of the schema defines the attributes in each object? Well, these some of these certificates, not the computer type certificates, but the user type certificates, are designed. The certificate structure is designed with a email field attribute in a user object. We don't have that. So if we generate a certificate with that attribute in it, we'll get an error message and the certificate won't be published or be created. So always check the general tab we're going to go to. We're going to type in the name of our domain, check in Active Directory, then go to the subject name field and verify that we don't need to uncheck the two email fields, that one and that one. Computer objects don't have email fields anyways, so we're not real concerned with this. But just always go through those three tabs. General, subject name, then the last one is security. Who do we want to get this type of certificate? Authenticated users, we need them to enroll in auto-enroll. Remember, authenticated user is any object that's signed in, which could be a computer object. So any computer object would automatically get this type of certificate. Click OK. Let's do one for user. Duplicate the template first. Go to the General tab. Change copy of to Contoso. It's already checked to publish in Active Directory. Now we're going to go to the subject name field tab. Uncheck the two email fields. Go to the security tab for authenticated users, enroll and auto-enroll. Let's do one for domain controllers. Now all these templates are going to be all these certificates are going to be used in the background. You don't need to do anything special or tell your users to do anything for these certificates to be used. Go to the General tab. Verify that it's published in Active Directory. Under the subject name tab, verify the email is unchecked. In security, who should enroll in auto-enroll? Domain controllers, yes. Enroll in auto-enroll. We don't need to give them read because they get that permission under authenticated users. Click OK. Let's do the web server. This one is going to be different. You cannot auto-enroll for a web certificate because every time you create a new website, you need to add additional information. So I'm going to duplicate that template. General. Publish in Active Directory. Check the subject name field. Look at this. It's different. It says supply in the request. So they have to supply additional information before that will be before a certificate will be granted. Under the security tab, in reality, what I should do is create a global group put all my web servers in that global group, then grant enroll and auto enroll for that group. But I'm lazy. So authenticated users, enroll, and auto enroll.
What's that?
I'm sorry?
What's that?
Why is what?
Why would you enroll and auto enroll?
Because once I generate the request, I want it to automatically improve and give it back. So once I manually generate the request, I don't want to have to call the admin and say, hey, will you grant that certificate? So once they supply the additional information, it'll auto enroll them.
Makes sense.
Click OK. Guys, and the last one, guys, I could do one for workstations, whatever I need, whatever your organization calls for. I'm going to do just these ones just to test it. We can make one for the administrator. It really doesn't matter. But this last one is definitely needed. It's called the OCSP. Guys, I say that the web server certificate was going to be good for 2 years. What happens if it gets compromised earlier than 2 years? I'm going to revoke it. But if someone reads the certificate, they won't know that I revoked it because it has an expiration date of 2 years from now. So when they read a certificate, they then contact that certificate server to see if that certificate's been revoked. And I'm going to, on a weekly basis or a daily basis, I'm going to create a revocation list, a list of certificates that I've revoked. And I need to sign that list so they know it came from me. Non-repudiation. I'm going to sign with my private key, and everyone's going to be able to decrypt it with my public key, and they'll know that it came from me. So they know it's a legitimate list. This will be the certificate that is used to sign that revocation list. So I'm going to right click and duplicate this. Another general tab, Contoso, publish an Active Directory, subject name, we don't need to change anything. Now this is the thinker. Who should get this certificate?
Enterprise admin.
The CA. The CA itself needs to get this certificate. So what we're going to do is click Add. Under Object Type, choose Computer. And type in your server name of your CA with a $sign afterwards.
What does the $sign mean?
It's a computer account in the domain as opposed to just a standalone computer account. Click OK. That machine should get enroll and auto enroll. Then click OK. Now we're going to take these templates that we've customized and publish them, so we can start offering certificates based on these templates. There's a glitch in 2016 and 2012. When I click close and I try to publish them, if you don't have yours, I'm going to ask you, have you rebooted yet? Then they show up. I don't know why. So I'm going to close this out, right click, new certificate templates to issue. I'm going to highlight mine because they're all in a row. That's why we put the Contoso there. Click OK.
Yeah, I gotta restart.
Yeah, I gotta restart.
Mine doesn't let me.
My computer.
Because you call it DC. Which is really screwed up.
It doesn't.
So you hijack the computer.
I swear.
Give me a prompt to type whoever, host it.
CS05-CA.
Her kindness is strong by her country's sarcasm.
No. SC. That's good, that's better than the other option. Because that's what I was looking at. Yeah, okay, good.
There we go.
No. We're just waiting for people to reboot.
And reboot after this, you said?
Nope. You're going to close that out, right click, new templates, issue. Right, sorry, close it out. Go back to your CA.
We're selecting all of them?
All the Contosos.
Okay. Now reboot or?
No, you don't need to reboot, only if those didn't show up. Some people need it to show up. Some people need it to reboot, you don't want it. Victor, are you good?
Oh, sorry.
Nelson?
Something to check.
Who needed to reboot? Just those? Okay, is it showing up? Good. Right now, no one in our domain, including the CA, knows there is a CA. So we need to create a group policy telling everyone, here's your CA, go here to get certificates. So let's go to DC1. So I'm going to sign in as Contoso. You're going to make me yawn now.
Yeah.
Does anyone ever see those little videos of the little girl who talks like an adult about coffee and stuff like that on Facebook? It's hilarious. She was talking about, yeah, I'll do that. You just give me coffee first. And she goes, I need my coffee. A yawn is just a silent scream.
She said that? That's amazing.
I don't know if she was prompted or what it is, but they're so funny. So I'm going to create a new group policy. Certs. And then we're going to edit it. CERTS, certs. So we're going to first do the computer side. I got to remember where it's at. Okay. Go to computer configuration, policies, Windows settings, security settings, and then public key policies. And we need to configure these three policies. So I'm going to go start on the top one.
Right click on the folder.
Basically, configuration mode, I'm going to enable that. I'm going to tell it to go to Active Directory to find the CA.
I don't know.
If I can go back.
All I did was enable it.
This is security. And then public key.
Okay, go to the next one in line.
Just click the phone. First one, double click.
When I look at the roster and stuff, I can see the old pictures. But your picture, when I look at it, I don't recognize you at all because you're long hair.
So now we're here.
Right, where do you go get?
Right click. Go to Google Policy, right click. Call it certs. Security settings.
Don't change anything that you need.
Just highlight it. Just talk to them first. Good. Right click certs. Edit. Policies. No. Windows settings.
Yes.
Security settings. Public key policies. Highlight public key policies. You do the first one, enable. Now go to the first one. This one. Yep. Properties. Enable. So I'm just telling client computers to go into Active Directory to find the CA and then auto enroll. So I'm going into certificate path validation settings. I want to define these policies, and basically I'm saying trust our root certificate. We're going to pass out the root certificate through the group policy, and we want you to trust it. It also talks about publishers and the revocation list. I'm not going to define that now, but we really should supply the revocation list. But I don't really care about that now. I'm going to click OK. And then auto enroll. This says where to find it. Now I want to auto enroll. I want to renew any expired certificates. You know, if I change the template, also update the certificate. Now we need to configure 3 similar settings for users. Okay. So I'm going to go to Policies for under Users, Windows Settings, Security Settings. Highlight Public Key Policy. So I'm going to tell them to enroll, get the information through Active Directory. The second one deals with credential roaming. If Jose sits here one day and gets a user certificate, it's stored locally. If he comes to here the next day and sits at this machine, it will regenerate a new certificate. Well, I could say have that original certificate roam with him, because we don't want to have him sign something here and that he won't be able to decrypt it on that machine. So you might want to allow credential roaming, but be very careful. You don't want to do this if there's a roaming profile, because then it'll automatically roam. So I'm going to click OK. It's saying be careful with roaming profiles. And do auto enroll. Auto renew, auto update if your certificate changes.
Professor, the CA that we have is the root. If
In re-
once you take it out, you'll
You-
have
well,
that,
no.
that DC that he's the one that's going to administer all these.
No, you create your root. You create a new machine. Install the CA stuff on it. Create a subordinate. Get a certificate for the subordinate from the root, and then take the root offline. the DC isn't doing anything with the certificates other than directing them to the certificate server and passing out the root CA's certificate so everyone trusts it. So I'm going to close this out and link that policy to my domain. Guys, I could, if I wanted to, I could link it to only one site if I wanted to. You know, and if I link it to a site, what happens?
Oh, search.
Instead of doing this, and if I didn't do this, let's say I didn't do this. Delete that link. What happens if I did this?
It's only going to be for that wing.
Right. Which domains though?
All of them, aren't all of them under East?
All of them under East. So what if I did this?
Then you lose a datum.
Well, that's not part of my. That's not the same force, so that wouldn't apply to a datum. That would only apply to the parent domain and the child domain, right?
But then we do a two-way trust for that?
But that's only to share resources, not. I'm not passing out group policies to the other force. Yes.
So, first, mine doesn't do a drop down. Mine, if I right click on my sites, it will just say to activate free sites.
Sure sites.
And
Close.
oh, perfect.
Right click.
Oh, to
Sure
show
sites.
the site.
Check the two
Thanks.
boxes. So if I want to have this one certificate authority for both my child and parent domain, I could do something like that. Or I can link it to the parent domain. Right-click domains and show the child and link it to the child domain as well. But look, where is the policy located? It's located in the parent. So I can, here's another way to get it to both domains. Just physically link it to both domains. So guys, this is done. So now what I'm going to do is do a GP update on this in the certificate server. I'm going to do the same thing on the CA. If we reboot the CA, it'll generate the certificates a little quicker. The last thing we need to do is to configure our online responder. We can't do that until we get this certificate. Verify that you have an OCSP response signing. I have a user certificate, I have a computer certificate, I have a domain controller certificate so far. Is anyone missing this?
I'm not, but yours is listed as number 10, mine is listed as number 9. And
That's just the order in which they're generated.
you've seen that.
Okay, so guys, now I'm going to go to the server manager.
Oh, I got more now.
And I'm going to go to online responder management.
Yeah, I messed up somewhere. I'm missing several.
If you hit refresh, more comes up.
Okay.
Yeah, I had that too.
Listen, the only one, we might have screwed up something. I'm not really concerned with the other ones. The most important is the OS.
Certificates, refresh.
I don't see any certificates. Highlight all this.
Brian, I closed and removed
It came up fine. That's okay. It'll keep generating. As they discover the certificate server, it'll keep doing more and more. Okay? And a lot of these certificates are going to be used in the background. So, you don't need to do another GP update, just give it time. It'll find it. So, let's go to the online responder and configure that. Okay. Go to revocation configuration and say add revocation configuration. Click next. My config. Whatever name you want to give it. We're going to select a certificate from an existing enterprise CA. We're going to browse for the CA, and it automatically finds it in Active Directory. Click Next. It should find the certificate automatically. Victor, because you didn't have one, you can try to automatically create one.
I'm not sure where you went to get the OS, OCSP.
Go to Tools, and Server Manager, and Online Responder.
Oh, online responder. Okay.
Right-click, Revocation Configuration. Not forget what it does. Yeah, My Config. Click Next, then Finish. It's done. When you revoke a certificate, it'll publish it. Guys, it does revocation list, and it will do it. It scans for Delta objects once in a while, then a deep scan for other objects. Yeah.
Bad signing certificate on array control.
Okay, so basically, try to close out and reopen. It doesn't trust your certificate. Okay, no, because I'm just highlight, go off. You're not trusting your CA. Go up. Try to reboot this machine. For some reason, you're not getting your policies. I just click next all the way through. Finish. That's it. You're good. Okay. Now listen. Ryan, you just try to reboot to see if you trust your CA. You're not getting your policies or something. Okay. So guys, our CA is up and running. We can see any certificates that we've revoked, any we've issued. We can revoke them if we want. We can export them. See any ones that manually need to be approved. See any certificates that failed. We can add new templates down the road if we want. So, guys, let's take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to set up a web server, and then we're going to grab certificates for the web server and offer a secure website.
Oh, you reset the clock.
Okay, it's cold. You're not all getting sick.
It is.
Yeah. When you go outside, you can feel the difference, really. Okay, so guys, I'm going to go to the web server. And I want to use, this was 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to go to the web server and configure the IP settings, join it to the domain, rename and join to the domain at the same time. So we missed Monday. This lab in my other class took 2 class periods. So we kind of caught up, which is good.
You told you were the better class.
We just have less problems here than in building 13. Computers are so much slower over there.
Right?
This is on our west side. There are 2, 3, 4, 5,
7?
6. The reason we had to use 7 because we have on the other side we have the DC9. We're going to point it to our local DC, and the alternate will be across the WAN. Because remember, I took down DC 6.
Oh.
You want me to read it, Marcella? 172.
I took a picture.
Okay.
I didn't think you.
Why do we have 2 DNS server in different subnets?
Because I physically shut down DC 6 just to make my machine go a little quicker. So I don't want to point to a DNS server that's down. So I'm going to click OK. OK. I'm going to rename and join it to the domain. CS01 www contoso.com. Open up command prompt and do DNS lookup. Here we go. Open up command prompt and do NS lookup. Letty, this is what you get for mouthing off saying you are the better team. Because now you're slowing me down. NS look, open up command prompt, NS lookup, control.com. Okay, do IP config off. Okay, verify that DC's up. Go to Hyper.
Oh, my router's shut down. That could be a problem.
Shut terminal. Turn on DC4. Turn all your DCs on.
Log in as administrator?
No. Did you have any problems? Click OK. Were you able to join?
Sanitize yourself.
Oh, okay. Show me your NS lookup.
Yeah, I got it.
Oh, you're good. You should be able to join. Now try NS lookup again.
Hey, Professor, if you have an issue, check to see if the routers went down.
Yeah.
Because mine did.
Wait, NS go from DC1 or DC?
Are you having a problem?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. So you don't, only people that have a problem. Can you ping 8.1 or 8.2?
Outing now? Outing? Outing?
Pretty good and fix it for me.
Okay, let's check, or let's verify you were on the right side. Now, NS lookup. Okay, now go to Trace. Lenny, are you good?
No. A lot of my servers went down, so for whatever reason.
It's happening to a bunch of people.
I'm restarting stuff.
Okay, listen, and do NS lookup. Ping 172.16.8.2. Also, if you can join, verify that you are in fact on the east site.
You don't have to log in as controls, no? Just go.
I'm sorry, yes you do, thank you. I was testing you, good job.
Yeah, that's fine now.
Okay, yes guys, please log in as the domain admin.
There we go.
So the last one should be under the east.
www.east, right?
Contoso / administrator. What did that mean, Laura? That phrase, what did it mean?
What are you saying?
Oh, okay. Were you saying that to him?
She's cursing me. She's cursing him.
That's not cursing. No.
Because he says that's how Italians do that all the time.
Yes. But Lebanese and Greek do it all the time too. They talk with their hands. Might be a Mediterranean thing.
I've got a QR code.
What do you want?
And even a full blue screen.
Why?
The angry you get.
No, you open it. Something just here.
In fact, Colombians do it too. But they get in your face when they do it.
Do what?
You know, talk with your hands, you know, when they're arguing.
I will not argue that.
Hey, Professor, I got a blue screen when doing that.
What?
Might be the better class, but not the
Okay. You are what I call a
Problem child.
observer.
I am very observant, yes.
So you're going to observe what we do next.
No, we're going to try upgrading it. Oh, wait, this isn't part of the domain now, though.
Okay, so guys, I'm going to install IIS. Just choose it, walk through the wizard. I would like to be done with this lab today, and then we're good. So we've gotten 2 days of labs in this one day.
Awesome.
So the fact that we missed Monday, we caught up. When we come in next time, I want to blow everything away, create another DC, and do the ADFS lab. This is chapters 11, 12 that we're doing right now. Plus, we finished 6. No, yeah, 11, 12. Are you guys finding the videos useful?
Yeah.
Yes. What videos?
The ones you find beside the quizzes? What quizzes?
The limit videos are actually way more useful to me.
I'm sorry?
The limit videos are like way more useful. Even though I do like reading, like the limit videos.
Yeah,
I think it's the way they explain it.
I think with the labs
What's you guys'
that we're doing, are you finding the labs and the videos a link between them that we're doing? Okay. Crickets.
What?
Do you find that the labs relate to the videos? Okay.
I like the Linda stuff. I don't like the, what do you call it stuff? It's on D2L, those D12 quizzes.
Yeah. I think after this semester, I'm going to stop using these books.
I don't like the book. I really don't. Linda stuff is really nice though because it's really in depth and the questions that ask you on Linda are tricky, but they're relatable to what the video says.
Guys, I'm going to open up a command prompt on the web server. First thing I'm going to do is create some web content to host in a website. I'm going to create a folder.
You're not on the domain.
I am. I did an admin prompt.
Oh, okay.
So I did an admin prompt, guys. So guys, when we installed the web server, it created a folder called inetpub on the root of my C drive. So this is where all your web content should be stored. There's a good chance that this could be compromised. So you don't want to put any other data in these folders. So I'm going to create a subfolder under the inetpub folder called my site.
I'm borderline sweating. Here.
We're going to echo some content into a file called index.html that's in the my site folder. Just some simple web content. This is the file we're going to host. Then type exit to close that window.
Can't you be like every other web demo? Every other web development? Hello world?
Yeah, no. I said we're going to create some content. That's what we did. Literally. Okay, so I'm going to type exit. Now I'm going to go to the IIS tool, the Internet Information Services. So we're going to expand our server, expand sites, guys, I'm not going to install Packet Tracer. You're going to have to take my word for this. But when you go to get a web page, after you do the three-way handshake in TCP, well, I want to go on a side topic in 1 second. The next packet you send is called an HTTP GET request. And you send that out to the web server. And in there's a field called host header. Whatever you type in the URL will be placed in that field. So this web server can host multiple websites. So when you send a packet to the web server, it doesn't know which website you want. So it's going to look in the value of the host header field and try to find one of the websites with that same value and then give you that website. Also, guys, right now, HTTP protocol rides on top of the OSI model, rides on top of TCP. They just got this approved, and this is like a major development. They got rid of HTTP over TCP and put it on top of UDP. So now it's going to be HTTP over UDP, and they're going to allow another protocol to handle the error checking and the guarantee of delivery. So they're going to be HTTP over QUIC over UDP versus HTTP over TCP. Facebook and Google already have it in the works. So it's kind of interesting, guys, that that protocol that's been like a staple for the internet. I mean, without that protocol, we wouldn't have the internet. That it's changing now. They're calling it HTTP3.
Wait, so HTTP3 is
HTTP over
HTTP over
QUIC over UDP. Well, they're not.
The security is a speed.
No, because they're speeding it up because they're not using TCP that requires that delivery
So
technology.
where's the check and balance thing? If it's not.
It's in the QUIC.
Who certifies the QUIC? Is a server, client, or both? Because you're doing a three-way handshake in a way with packets, right? So who would be in charge?
I don't know, but there's also encryption in QUIC as well.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I mean that's something to research. They announced it over the weekend.
That's cool. Oh, that's awesome.
You know you're a geek when you look at your Google feed and all it talks about is like cord cutting, how to stream stuff on Kodi, and these protocols. So we're going to right click and add a new website. Now this web server can host multiple websites. Each website is differentiated from each other website by one of three attributes. The host header value, the name that you type in the actual web browser, the IP address assigned to that web server. I can have multiple IP addresses assigned to a web server. Unlikely that we'll do that, but I could. Or the port number. It's relatively common to change a port number. I have two websites, one listed on port 80, another one listed on port 8080. But most of the time it's done with the host header value. So what we're going to do is press cancel because we skipped a whole step. Okay, we're going to go to back to our web server. Then we're going to go to server certificates. Double click it. So what we want to do now is get a new certificate for our web server. So we're going to create a domain certificate. Guys, if you're going to use VeriSign for your website, you want to use this. You create a request, put it in a thumb drive, secure, send it to your GoDaddy or VeriSign, whoever's going to give you your certificate. They'll send it back to you. Then you complete the request. I don't know why people would ever send it via email. Email is not secure, but people, they handle it that way. It's a two-step process, takes weeks. You send it to them, they verify all your information, they verify you are who you say you are, issue you a certificate, send it back to you, you complete the certificate request, and that will import your certificate in your server, and at that point you can use it. Since we have our own certificate server, we're just going to do that method. So I'm going to create a domain certificate. The common name. This is what's going to be typed in the URL field. This should match the DNS record for that web server. Right now it doesn't. We got to fix that. So I'm going to go to contoso.com, Contoso Limited, whatever our company name is, Web Services Division. Guys, you have to put in the fully spelled out name, no abbreviations. It says it right here. If you're doing this method and you send in abbreviations, it kicks it back. This wizard will actually allow you to use abbreviations. Because they're, you know, I don't know why. It allows you to use abbreviations. But if you send it to GoDaddy or something, they'll just kick it back. Don't use abbreviations. The wizard will walk through perfectly and work. Again, this must match the name people are going to type in the browser. It also needs to match the DNS record, and it needs to match the value we're going to put in our website as the host header value. So I'm going to click Next. We're going to select the online RCA, My Web Certificate.
At what point do you disconnect the
debate? Okay, all I can say is reboot. You know, because you're not getting your policy yet. Okay, that's not nice of me.
I'm doing everything to replace that.
Okay, listen, all I can say is reboot because you're not getting the GPO and telling you who your certificate server is. Press cancel, reboot. Yeah, guys, if you don't have this, that means you're not reading the GPO that says where your web server is.
Professor, at what point do you disconnect your root certificate server?
Before I went any further, after I created my root, I set up my policies and my templates. I set up my CA, my subordinate CA, and then take my root offline.
So technically, it's be connecting to your subordinate, not the.
Right. Okay. Guys, I want to get this done. We have 15 minutes before I let you go. So now I have my certificate. Now I'm going to set up my website. Right click, add a website. Are you with me, Aaron? Okay. Add a website. Whatever. I don't care the name. That's not the name we're hosting. And I'm going to browse to where we have that index.html. Under inetpub, my site. Now, remember, each website is distinguished from every other website on this web server through one of three attributes. I can't have the identical three attributes on any two websites. So, we're going to keep these values the same, but we're going to put in a host header value. Let me see if that'll stick. Yeah. So we're going to change it to HTTPS because we want to use a certificate. And we're going to differentiate this website from the default website by putting in a host header value. Guys, you notice the friendly name, I didn't call it www.contoso.com. When I walk through the wizard to create it, I call it my web certificate because that's the name in this list. Just so if you call your website, your certificates the same name, you look in this drop-down list, you don't know which one is which. So try to give the friendly name to be something distinguishable. Then click OK. So now look, I can see that this is bound to that host header value, any IP on this machine, port 443. This one is being hosted on no host header value, any IP on this machine, port 80. So guys, we need to go and add a record in DNS for www.contoso.com. Can anyone tell me what the most appropriate record would be? A CNAME. Because we already have an A record for. So guys, I'm going to jump to DC5 just because that's the DC I'm pointing to for DNS.
Doesn't that actually cost like a redirect though?
No. When I do a query for an A record, and when it returns an alias, it will return the alias plus the A record. And we can look at that right here. I'll show you in a moment. Okay, so guys, I'm going to go into the forward lookup. There's my www record. I'm going to create a new alias. And it's going to point to .contoso.com. No luck?
I still don't have it.
Okay. Listen, you might have. I don't know what your problem is. Guys, that'll be part of the video. You will do this again, trust me. Okay, so I'm going to create an alias that really points to this machine. Click OK. And if I do an NS lookup, www.contoso.com, it should come up. I'm going to open up Chrome. I'm thinking about just blowing everything away for the next class period. Just to speed things up. I'm opening up Chrome right now, guys. Okay, I'm going to go back to my web server, see if it's running quicker. My web server is still on my SSD drive, so it's going to run probably quicker. Guys, just to verify it, NS lookup. I can resolve the name to an IP. So if I type this, cs01-www.contoso.com,
Or HTTPS.
no, not yet. Which website will I get a match for? Which one will the web server give me?
The default site.
The default 80. Yeah, the default. So hit enter. There's my default website. Now if I type in, don't answer, Nielsen. www.contoso.com. Which website will I come up with? Which one will get the closest match? The which one? That one probably.
Yeah.
Because it's port 80. What I would do in a scenario like that, I would create another website with that name, port 80, that redirects me to the other. Because a lot of times when you type www and you don't put in the HTTPS, it takes you to the normal website that does a quick redirect to the other
Why
website.
not just use a rewrite rule?
I'm sorry?
Why not just bind port 80 and do a rewrite rule?
Well, or because a lot of because you can just do that in the meta tags in port 80. I could, if I wanted to change this binding, add it to port 80 as well. But I don't want this to really respond unsecurely at all. So I would probably, I think, create another website, change the meta tag, and that's relatively simple. meta HTTP redirect. And it's real simple to do a redirect. And you just literally put this code at the top of your website, where you want to redirect them to. And you would put HTTPS and whatever. So I'm going to do this. HTTPS. It's saying it's not secure. Why?
Because it's
Not
not
a
signed by
publicly
the
signed
register.
certificate.
Nope.
Do that.
Because Chrome doesn't get our policies with the updated certificates.
Oh, it's easy.
This one does get our policy. You can add, guys, and when we do Central Store group lesson on group policy, we'll import some group policy settings for Chrome into our Active Directory. And we'll create Central Store. So it's working, guys. You know, I just wanted to show you the Chrome thing. We need to manually add our certificate to Chrome, the root certificate, or use Internet Explorer, or set up the GPO to add that certificate server to Chrome. Okay, guys, that's it for this lesson. ADFS next time we meet. This is recorded. I'm going to upload it to the server now.